our marketing AI conference, MAICON 2024, is a wrap. It happened last week. A big thank you to all the people who made the trip to Cleveland, Ohio for our biggest and best conference yet. So, Paul, I just wanted us to maybe talk through a little bit, maybe your perspective on the significance of the event, the turnout, audience response, maybe kind of what you took away from it. And then I thought we could maybe just really quickly sum up a couple of the big picture takeaways from our closing keynote, where you and I actually used AI to summarize a bunch of the sessions and the keynotes and actually kind of synthesize takeaways that made the most sense for the audience to turn into kind of their own AI action.
Yeah, so anybody listened to the beginning of episode 113 sort of heard the background story of Macon. If you didn't listen to it, you can go kind of get the origin story of Macon. And I'm grateful for everyone that came up to me during the event last week and shared how much that episode meant to them. I mean, just a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs who just appreciated sort of the inside look at the nonlinear path that we've taken to get to nearly 1,100 people in Cleveland at an event. Um, Entrepreneurship is hard, as I said in that episode, and it doesn't just happen. But for us, it's an amazing collection of speakers, volunteers. We have an incredible event partner in Kelly Wetzel that makes the operations come to life and makes it like a world class experience for people. But I think the thing that kept ringing true to me, and Mike, I'm sure you saw the same thing, is just the community that has formed and how collaborative and non-competitive they are. Like there's just people helping people everywhere.
Yeah.
And everyone was incredibly welcoming and supportive and took the time to listen. I loved hearing so many stories about where people are in their AI journeys. And so just I think the audience that came together, and I try real hard, like obviously when you're running the event and I got 5 sessions, it's hard to sort of step back, but I tried, as many times as I could to just sort of step back and soak the whole thing in, appreciate the journey of creating and building something like this, but then seeing it take on a bit of a life of its own and just seeing so many incredible speakers and like the ratings from the sessions were through the roof and the comments people made about the impact different sessions had on them were incredible. And so as you said, Mike, like our idea for the closing keynote was to do this sort of AI in action wrap up where we curated the insights from these 50 plus speakers and all the things we learned from different attendees and then use some AI technology to help curate it. So we had a plan and we executed it, and then Strawberry sort of threw a wrinkle in it, but we did still pull it off. So you led the charge on that though. Like once
Yeah.
you established the vision for that event, like you really went through and did it. So why don't you share just like kind of how AI played a role in it, and then maybe some of those key insights you mentioned.
Yeah, for sure. So, a couple ways that AI was super helpful in kind of doing this almost in real time with, a little bit of lead time to get all the slides and things built. But we were really lucky to have a great partner in Goldcast. Goldcast has a bunch of AI features for the events that you're running. One of them is we got real time transcriptions and summarization, like some nice summarized, like 3-page briefs on each of the main sessions that we did. So we took all those. We took all of the transcripts and we put those into Gemini 1.5 Pro. And then importantly, we didn't just say, hey, Gemini, like do the work for us. It was more like, here are 10 questions from Paul's opening keynote that he posed as being relevant to the future of marketing. Can you go through with the context around these questions, with the context, gave it a bunch of information about our event, what we were trying to achieve from your keynote, and help us break this down and contextualize how we could start answering these questions using a bunch of takeaways. So obviously closing keynote was like 45 minutes long. So we're not going to go through every single one of those pieces here, but I did just want to throw out like 3 really quick, like almost sub bullets of some of these events. So, or some of these questions rather that we were asking. So one of the first questions and the most important was that you had posed, Paul, was how will the next generation of AI models affect you, your team, and your company? And you had a quote in your keynote that I thought was worth mentioning here that says, LLMs are just the foundation for what comes next.
Yeah,
And
and that obviously that was like one of the overall themes of the conference was that these text in text out models that started with ChatGPT were just the basis not only for multimodal reasoning, agentic capability, but really the pursuit of artificial general intelligence, which was like the whole focus of my talk. And that was, I think something we just became a recurring theme throughout the event. And so much of the agenda enabled us to sort of tell this story of where these models are going.
And then another question, and kind of we had much more extensive conversation around all these, but one of the big questions as well was how will AI impact marketing strategies and budgets? And I think a thing you and I talked about on stage, Paul, was just this idea of everyone is going to be able to and be expected to do much more with much less. And I think you had kind of mentioned briefly, either in your keynote or in one of the panel conversations, kind of this idea that we're probably going to be seeing pretty soon, if not very soon, someone's going to probably start $1 billion business with one person. I had multiple people come up to me after that and say, or during the event and say, yeah, I'd like to figure that out in my own
Wouldn't we
industry. I was
all?
like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I think that, going again, we're heading into budgeting season. So anyone listening to this who, controls a budget or P&L within their organization is already thinking about, where the budget's going to go next year, what strategies are we going to employ, what is our HR, strategy org chart related to that. And so there was a lot of conversations around that over those few days. And, I think that we're entering a very dynamic phase where you are going to be able to do so much more with so much less. And even, for us with Smarter X, when, I announced the launch of that AI research and consulting firm, sort of the sister company to Marketing AI Institute, part of it was I wanted to reimagine what a research firm could be. And, tie it back to today. Think about Notebook LM as like a component of an AI native research firm. Like these are things you're paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to do. Like top researchers isn't like cheap talent.
Right.
And like when you step back and you say, what are our strategies? What are our budgets? Like not just from a marketing perspective, but from a business perspective. And you think about what technology is now available to you, you can reimagine. And that was a recurring theme as well, but like reimagine what's possible. Um, and I like the idea of sort of this able to build more efficient, more creative from the ground up versus trying to like tear down what's already there. So yeah, I think doing much more with much less is certainly something that most organizations will be able to execute next year if they truly understand AI, what it's capable of, and apply it in the right ways.
And last but not least here, I just wanted to mention that one of the questions we asked was, how will marketing jobs change? And you laid out a timeline on the road to AGI in your keynote. And one of the milestones was around 2025 to 2027. You said, quote, disruption in knowledge work starts to become more tangible and measurable. And I thought that was just like a great way to kind of cap off this topic because it really sums up why the event is so important, why the community is so important. Like this stuff is accelerating and we're getting very quickly, it sounds like, into where it's going to start affecting people.
Yeah, my theory is that when agents, true agents, I don't. It's funny, like what Benioff's calling this agent force thing. I'm not so sure that they're the kind of agents that we think of agents as. Like,
Mm.
again, I think I mentioned this on a recent episode. Like, these rule-based agents are being kind of considered agents, where I think the true concept of them is these agents that can go through reasoning and chain of thought and take action and things like that. So what we're going to see this year is a lot of experimentation, a lot of talk around agents, but it's really going to be 1 to 2 years out before these things become at or beyond human reliability and
Mm.
accuracy. And when that occurs, when agents truly start to function as integral parts of businesses and workflows, then I think we start to see true disruption to the workforce. And that's why we built Jobs GPT. So everyone, recalls that, but from a few episodes ago, it's the idea of taking an exposure key and saying, well, okay, in 1 to 2 years, these things are going to have reasoning capability, persuasion capability. They will be multimodal from the ground up. Like now we start to have jobs that are exposed to true automation and disruption.